All right, first thing we're going to do is take one of the equations and set it equal to 0. So we're going to take the second equation and solve for y. So we're going to subtract 2x. So now we got y is equal to negative 2x plus 11. And that's going to be our first step. Get y by itself. Remember, it doesn't matter which equation, just get y by itself. The next thing we're going to do is where the name comes from, substitution. What we're going to do is we're going to replace the y in the other equation. That's this one right here. We're going to replace that y with negative 2x plus 11. So now we're going to have this equation. X times negative 2x plus 11 equals 14. So all I did was replace the y with the negative 2x plus 11. And now I'm going to solve that equation. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is go ahead and use some distributive property. So x times the negative 2x is going to give me negative 2x squared. X times 11 is going to give me 11x. And it's still equal to 14. Now, as you can see there, this is a quadratic. And in order to solve a quadratic, we've got to get it equal to 0. So what I'm going to do next is go ahead and move my 14 over to the left side of the equation. And we're going to do that by subtracting. Now what I have is negative 2x squared plus 11x minus 14 equals to 0. That's our quadratic. At this point, in order to solve this quadratic, we can do one of three things. We can either use quadratic formula, we can factor it, or we can do like we did yesterday, which is to graph it, find the X intercepts. And that's probably going to be the easier of the three choices there. So let's go ahead and graph this quadratic, and let's find the X intercepts, because those X intercepts represent our solutions to this quadratic. And since it is a quadratic, remember, we should end up with two solutions. All right, so go ahead and graph it. And let's find the X intercepts. All right, what are the X intercepts? Where is it from? 2 is one of them. What's the other one? I think it's a decimal, right? 2 and 3.2. You're close. I think it's 3.5, isn't it? Right in the middle. Well, remember, you're looking at the graph here. Yeah, 3.5. All right, so the two solutions here are 2 and 3.5. Now, just like yesterday, what we have are just the x's. What we're looking for is an ordered pair. And in an ordered pair, we have an x and a y. And right now, all we have is the x. So our third and final step is to find that y value. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this 2 and that 3.5, and we're going to substitute it in for the x. Now, it's not going to matter. You can use the first equation or the second. We just need to make sure we stick the 2 and the 3.5 in for the x. All right, so I think I'm going to go ahead and use the first equation. I'm going to start with the 2. I'm going to replace x with a 2, and I'm going to solve it for y. So 14 divided by 2, 14 divided by 2 would give us a 7, which means I have the ordered pair 2, 7. 2 is the x, 7 is the y. So that's one of my solutions. Now I'm going to find the other. Now I'm going to take this 3.5 that we have, and I'm going to stick it in that same equation. So now I have 3.5y is equal to 14. And I want to see what y is. So let's divide. What's 14 divided by 3.5? 4. Which means I have the ordered pair 3.5, 4. There's your other solution. So these two ordered pairs represent the solution to this system. Those two ordered pairs make both equations true. All right, so those are the 3 steps that we're going to follow. Try another one. Let's go to number 3. For number 3, we're going to do the same thing. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get y by itself. The question is, which equation are we going to use? Are we going to use the first one or the second? Which one looks easy? Which one you want to use? First one or the second? All right, so we'll use the second. 6x plus 3y equals 15. And all we're going to do is get y by itself. So I'm going to start by moving the 6x to the other side. We're going to do that with subtraction. So I've got 3y is equal to negative 6x plus 15. I'm going to divide everything by 3 now. So if I divide everything by 3, now I end up with negative 2x plus 5. And all I did was divide everything by 3. There's your first one. Get y by itself. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the other equation and we're going to replace this y with a negative 2x plus 5. We're substituting it in. That's why we call this substitution. So now we have x squared plus x. We're going to replace the y with negative 2x plus 5 minus x equals 3. So everything stayed the same. All I did was replace y with a negative 2x plus 5. And we're going to solve that. First, I'm going to use some distributive property. So x times a negative 2x is a negative 2x squared. X times 5 is 5x. Still got x. Still got the equals 3. What we're going to do now is we're going to clean that up. There's some like terms that we can combine. So I'm going to start right here. These are like terms. I'm going to combine. 1x squared minus 2x squared would give me a negative 1x squared. Notice how these are also like terms, so I'm going to put those together as well. 5x's minus 1x would give me a 4x. And since this is a quadratic, I want it equal to 0. So what I'm going to do is move my 3 to the left side of the equation. We're going to do that with subtraction. So now what I end up with is negative 1x squared plus 4x minus 3 equals 0. Now I've got my quadratic in standard form. Now I need to know what are the solutions to this quadratic. So at this point, you've got one of 3 options. You can either use quadratic formula, you can factor it, you can use the graphing method, whatever it takes. Okay? So let's do the graphing method because it's faster and easy. Go ahead and graph that for me, and let's find the solutions. Which you're going to find those looking at the X intercepts. Graph it. Find the X intercepts. 1 and 3. Those are your solutions to the quadratic. Now keep in mind those are only the x's. We still need to figure out what the y's are. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that 1 and 3 and we're going to plug it in for the x either in the first equation or in the second one, whichever looks easier. Okay, which one looks easier? First one or the second one? Second one? Okay, so we use the second one. All I'm doing is replacing the x with a 1. We're going to solve for the y. 6 times 1, that's 6. Now I'm going to subtract 6 from 15. So 15 minus 6 is 9. Divide by 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Which means I'm going to end up with the ordered pair 1, 3. And that's one of our solutions. Now what I'm going to do is replace the x with a 3 this time. I'm still using the same equation. Taking out the x, replacing it with a 3. Let's see what we get this time. 6 times 3, that's what? 15. I'm going to subtract 18 from 15. So 15 minus 18, that's going to be a negative 3. And a negative 3 divided by a positive 3 makes this a negative 1, which means I'm going to end up with the ordered pair, 3, negative 1. And there's my other solution. So these are the two ordered pairs that satisfy both of our equations. Now that's the answer to our system. That's number 3. All right, let's do one more, number 5. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to start by getting y by itself. So we got to decide which y we're going to get by itself. The first equation or the second equation. I think for us, it's going to be easier if we use the second equation. So I'm going to take that 4xy equals 60 and get y by itself. And I can do that simply by dividing by 4x. This way we can cancel out those guys there. So all I need to know is what is 60 divided by 4x. Well, what's 60 divided by 4? Let's start there. 15. And we still have an x in my denominator, so I'm going to leave that x there. So y is going to equal to 15 over x. There's your first step. We got y by. Now we're going to take that 15 over x and we're going to plug it in for the y's. Right there and right there. That's where we're sticking that 15 over x. So let's go ahead and do that. We got 5x plus 4. We're replacing the y with a 15 over x. Same thing with this y. We're replacing it with 15 over x. Everything else is still there. There it is. I need to solve for x. Well, I'm going to do a little multiplying first. When I multiply 4 times 15 over x, I'm going to end up with a 60 over x. When I multiply 2x times a 15 over x, what's going to end up happening is these x's right here are going to cancel each other out. So 2 times 15 is going to give me a 30. So now I've got this thing right here. Now there's one little problem I have, and that's this x in the denominator on this 60 over x. Can't have it. So what we're going to do is get rid of that x. And the way we're going to get rid of that x is simply by multiplying the whole equation by x. And you'll see what's going to happen here in a second. But we're going to multiply everything times an x. So I've got 5x times x, which of course is 5x squared. Now here's why we're multiplying by the x, because this x and this x are going to cancel each other out, leaving us with a 60. No more fraction, no more x in the denominator. But you got to keep multiplying by x. So x times 30 is 30x. And 70 times x is 70x. So all I did was multiply everything times an x. We're going to clean that up. We're going to put it in standard form. Got the 5x squared. Since I want it equal to 0, I'm going to move these 70x's to the left side. And we're going to do that by subtracting. So I've got 30x's. I'm going to take away 70x's, which is going to give me a negative 40x. 30 minus 70 is negative 40. And of course, I still got the 60, and now it's equal to 0. So the quadratic I have is 5x squared minus 40x plus 60. This is what I need to solve. So you go ahead and use the graphing method. It's faster and easier. And find me the solutions to this quadratic. Give me the X intercepts. 2 and what? 2 and 6. Okay, so 2 and 6 are the solutions to this quadratic. We're halfway there. We know what the x's are now. Now let's figure out what the y's are. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that 2 and 6 and we're going to go back and plug it in for x. We can either use the first equation or the second, whichever looks easier. I think the easier one would be the second. So I'm going to replace x with a 2. And what we're going to do is we're going to solve for the y. 4 times 2. 4 times 2, that's 8. So what I need to know is what is 60 divided by 8? 60 divided by 8. 7.5. So we're going to end up with the ordered pair 2, 7.5. There's one of your solutions. Now let's do the same thing again, but this time let's plug in a 6. And let's see what we end up with this time. 4 times 6. 4 times 6 is 24. So I've got 24y is equal to 60. 60 divided by 24. What is 60 divided by 24? 2.5. So now I'm going to end up with the order pair 6. 2.5. There you have it. Those are your two solutions. So there's a little work involved, not complicated, but there is some work that you got to do to come up with those ordered pairs. All right, so what I want you guys to do is do the other 3 for me, see what you come up with, and then you're done for the day.